tale of redemption in the Old West, directed by Michael Frederini. We are talking Bury 'Em Deep. And this is a 2025 movie that stars Robert Kovacs, Bronzi and Michael Paré. There is actually a Italian old Western, or the British translation is Bury 'Em Deep. I'm not sure if it's anything to do like a remake or something. I haven't seen that movie. I'm not a huge Western fan, to be honest, so I don't actually know if this is just happens to share the same title or if it is actually some type of remake of that old movie. And this one asks the question, I suppose, can revenge bring salvation? Now, the story focuses on Robert Bronzi's character, who is a kind of bounty hunter, and he captures a quarry at the beginning of the movie, and he is kind of betrayed by Michael Paré's sheriff and is shot, and wakes up 3 weeks later in a kind of like an orphanage, and is being cared for by a nun, and she is on the verge of bankruptcy. So Robert Bronzi's character feels like it's now his duty to try and save this orphanage by letting her have his hoard of money that he has kind of collected through doing this kind of bounty hunter work. But when he is retrieving it, he is ambushed by a kind of gang of thieves who steal all his money. And now he must track down each of these thieves to find out what has gone on and potentially save this orphanage from the clutches of this oppressive bank who is threatening to bankrupt this orphanage. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what works in this movie's favour. First of all, the climax of this movie, without spoiling anything, is an extended bloody shootout that I feel is, a great climax to the movie. It's actually a fairly long sequence with many parties all absolutely going gun crazy on each other. So if you like shootouts, then it's all in a pumpkin field and lots of exploding pumpkins, which is quite a fun idea. That was all sort of pretty good. The movie, I feel, is kind of influenced by Tarantino in a way. The actual bulk of the story is a series of conversations. Robert Bronzi's character conversing with a variety of characters through the movie. Now, the Robert Bronzi doesn't speak the best English, so it's more characters talking at him immediately. But it's, first of all, it's the kind of this sheriff, then it's the kind of the nun, and then ultimately he's tracking down this group of thieves, all of whom we have a kind of an interaction with, and learning how they've ended up kind of, becoming part of this kind of story, you might say. And I couldn't help but feel this is sort of trying to have a kind of Tarantino-esque kind of style of feel to this movie. It's a very low budget movie. I'm not saying this is kind of equivalent to a Tarantino movie by any stretch. I'm just saying I think it's clearly influenced by it. I think some of the characters are quite fun. We have a kind of a group of like female outlaws, I have to say. They were, to me, probably the most interesting sort of characters here. They have quite a fun kind of concept in how they have got sort of integrated into this sort of story. And to me, they were the kind of the most original sort of characters within the film. I won't give you the context of who they are really, but I thought they were visually sort of quite interesting. And I think how they end up getting sort of involved in it, again, the backstory of it, I think was an interesting kind of idea here. I also kind of like Michael Paré's sheriff and his reasons for sort of having beef with the Robert Bronzi character is, it's straight out of a kind of a spaghetti western, shall we say. I think obviously if you're a fan of Charles Bronson, and of course Robert Bronzi has made a career out of being a kind of lookalike for Charles Bronson, and obviously Bronson did his fair share of westerns, so you might enjoy this kind of almost nostalgia trip in some respects that is kind of quite fun. As I said, the end of this movie is kind of quite bloody, which is really at odds with the rest of the movie, but I think it makes that climax sort of all the more kind of fun to a degree. Okay, so let's talk about what doesn't work. Now, again, I'm not the biggest Western fan, to be honest with you. I enjoy a few, but it certainly isn't one of my top genres. And I have to say, generally speaking, I found this movie quite dull. It is, as I've mentioned, it is a series of conversations for the most part, and the acting isn't particularly strong, with a couple of exceptions. I didn't think the characterization is anywhere near where it should be, and that includes the Robert Bronzi character, who is, you know, apparently a badass bounty hunter. Although everyone seems to be able to get the drop on him, he actually ends up becoming quite inept. At least how that comes across, because he seems every time he comes across someone manages to get the drop on him. Now, eventually, obviously, he'll make it out and kind of progress to the rest of the movie because he's the main character. But he seems he is always gets kind of outplayed initially, which makes him kind of look inept, it must be said. I think and again, I won't spoil anything for you, where this kind of story is going is fairly obvious. I think, again, and I think this is down to some of the acting choices, maybe trying to kind of oversell certain things, certain character, maybe overselling a particular kind of scene which should have been poignant, but it ends up being, well, that's clearly an alternate motive here. So the acting, as I say, betrays some of the kind of the plot points here. Once we kind of get it outside of the kind of finale, and we'll come on to the finale again, but I really didn't feel this movie had any real sort of excitement in it. It has a kind of a couple of sort of violent scenes in it, but the way it's filmed, a lot of it is just like way too dark. With night scenes, you just feel like you cannot see what's going on. I mean, they should have found ways to kind of light the scene a little better so you can actually see. It's just too dark in some of these kind of night scenes, and you can't see what's going on. Some of the kind of the setups of these kind of different sort of people that the Bronzi character meets are sort of quite poorly staged and ultimately a little kind of hokey, to be honest with you. Some of the kind of the VFX, and I say VFX because we have like CGI fire, CGI muzzle flashes, things like that. Now, it's a low budget movie. You know, we have to kind of give some sort of leeway when it's obviously such a low budget. But I'll be remiss for not kind of pointing it out and saying, obviously, these things kind of stand out. Now, I know the kind of the Alec Baldwin movie where he killed that cinematographer. Now there is sort of the move at using not to use blanks and things whilst making films, particularly westerns, I suppose. So I can understand maybe where they've used CGI muzzle flashes and stuff, but as I say, I think it's used poorly. And let's end with that talking about this finale. And yes, it's probably the most exciting scene in the movie. It is quite bloody. They do use a little bit of kind of CGI gore here, which, you know, is hit or miss. But at the end of the day, I think it's a little, the way it's set up is a little silly. I mean, we've got people like hiding behind a scarecrow for cover, or hiding behind a pile of pumpkins. You know, a bullet's just going to go through that. It's just silly. And a lot of this time in the movie, if they're not hiding behind something, they're standing out in the open. So we have these shootouts where we'd even get a scene at the beginning where someone just sat on a chair and like they start firing at the Bronzi character, and they're literally sat on a bench outside this house, and they're just like, you're not even trying to kind of like, you know, get in any type of cover. It's just silly. I have to say, overall, this movie was a movie which I didn't particularly find that captivating. There's a few moments in the movie that I thought were interesting and a kind of a bubble, but ultimately as a movie as a whole, it was rather disappointing. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Please leave me your thoughts if you've seen it, and I'll look forward to you next time.